Hi friends, in AP Bio, it is time to take a look at cell processes and all that good active passive transport stuff. Real quick, real short overview for you. So let's get started. All right, we're going to start off with passive transport. If you think of the word passive and what it just means it's very non-energy related. You're not really doing anything. So passive transport does not require any energy at all. And there are several kinds of passive transport that we're going to talk about. But first, let's contrast that with active transport. Active requires energy. And so we're going to talk about a couple different kinds of ways of getting things into and out of our cell through the membrane that require energy. All right. So if you have to go against the gradient, if you're moving something from an area of high concentration to low concentration, that means against the gradient, right? So normally you'd go from high to low concentration. But if you're going diffusion, but if you're forcing something to go from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration, I think I said that correctly, that is known as active transport. It requires energy in order to do that. So usually we're talking about protein pumps embedded in the cell membrane. We took a look at the cell membrane itself. It's got all those little proteins embedded in it. So we're going to use those proteins to get things from one side of the membrane to the other using energy, using ATP. So the first kind of energy that we talk about, the kind of movement that we talk about is diffusion. And that is simply passive. It happens all on its own. It would be like if I sprayed a bunch of perfume or air freshener or what have you, the molecules of scent in that would eventually diffuse through the thermodynamics of moving through the little particles in the air. They would diffuse from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration with no energy required at all. You can also have facilitated diffusion. And what that means is that I'm using a protein to get things from one side to the other, but it's just like a tube. It's like a little channel. So there's no energy required for that one. Facilitated diffusion uses a protein as a facilitator. That's why it's called facilitated diffusion, to get things from one side of the membrane to the other. Osmosis is another kind of passive transport. And what it's doing in this case is water. Water is being moved from an area of high concentration of water to an area of low concentration of water through a semi-permeable membrane. That is the definition of osmosis. I'm going to move this down here because we're missing just a little bit. Let's see if I can do it. There we go. Awesome. So diffusion, osmosis, facilitated diffusion, and the last one is filtration. That does not require energy. You're just forcing something through a membrane. This happens in our kidneys. In active transport, energy is required. So if we're bringing something large into the cell or taking it out of the cell, that's called endo or exocytosis. We'll talk about that more in just a little second. Also, phagocytosis is when, usually referring to one-celled organisms, will engulf something, usually to eat it, like an amoeba chasing something down. Also, we're going to take a look at a white blood cell engulfing a bacterial cell, and that's taking something into the cell by cell eating. That's phagocytosis. And then penocytosis is the instance where the cell is bringing just liquid inside of itself. All right. Next, osmosis. We already saw this in our lab that we did. So the three different kinds of solutions that we had, which we talked briefly about, here it is a little bit more detail. We had an isotonic solution where the solute concentration was equal both inside and outside of the cell, same molarity. Then we had a hypotonic solution. In a lot of cases, that was distilled water. And that means that the solution itself, if it's hypotonic, has more water, less solute than the other area, whether it's inside of the cell, outside of the cell, in solution, or what have you. So a hypotonic solution, let's say I placed my red blood cell in a hypotonic solution, water would flow into the cell, causing it to lyse or burst. Hypertonic solution is I'm putting my red blood cells into an area that has more solute. So hypertonic means I have more solute than another area. So if I put those little red blood cells that are about 0.08% salt into a 2%, 3% or higher salt concentration or even sugar concentration, those cells would shrivel up. Same with plant cells right down here. The plant cell, if you put salt water on a plant, the cells would shrivel and they would lose water. So water would be moving out of the cells. So here are your definitions right here. In an isotonic solution, water flows into and out of the cell evenly. In a hypotonic solution, water flows into the cell because there is more water outside of the cell than inside of the cell. And in the hypertonic solution, there is more solute, so water is going to flow out of the cell. All right. So let's take a look at endocytosis, if I can get it to work here. Endocytosis just means I'm going to transport large things into the cell. So usually we're talking about a one-celled organism. And in this little case right here, we're going to click on this guy in just a second. It's a white blood cell that's going to bring materials in. In this case, it's going to be a bacterial cell. Let me get this down here for you. Not working for me. Come on, there we go. All right, so this means that my membrane is going to fold up and around my thing that I want to bring inside, whether it's food, whether it's large particles, whether it's a bacterial cell. So let's take a look at this guy. He's going to chase a bacterial cell. Maybe, if we can get it to work. There we go. Not sure why it's closed down. White blood cell, red blood cells, little bacterial cells. These guys are releasing a chemical following it. Ah, dun dun dun. All right. So in that case, the white blood cell, this guy right here, through chemotaxis, he's moving around, chasing chemicals put off by the bacterial cell. And it's going to be the shape of the proteins on the outside of the bacterial cell that tell this white blood cell, this is a bad guy and you need to eat him. All right, so now we can get finally to this portion right here. Exocytosis is what I'm getting when I'm getting rid of something from inside of the cell to outside. So endo means in, exo means out, exit. And so in this case, I'm going to create a little vesicle, a membrane-bound vesicle, and I'm going to get something, usually waste materials, and I'm going to move them toward the membrane of the cell itself. It binds with it and then releases it outside of the cell. Homeostasis, you probably heard that term before. That is from biology when you're maintaining that stable internal environment. And this guy is he's an amoeba, and he has to regulate everything inside and outside of his cell to keep everything the same. When cells specialize from their stem cell state to becoming the different tissues, we've got different roles that each cell is going to undertake. So whether I'm going to have movement that I need to do as a cell, whether I'm going to regulate waste products as a cell, whether I'm going to transfer information like a nerve cell, or I'm going to produce something like a gland, all different cells have a different job based on their specialization. So let's take a look at, if I'm going from the cellular level to the organ system level, the cell is my basic unit of structure and function in living things. From a cell, I go to a tissue, a bunch of cells that are organized to do the same function, perform together. That is a tissue. Different tissues that are organized into an entire system, that is an organ. Different organs working together are called organ systems. So your heart and your lungs are the cardiorespiratory system. And you've also got, let's say, your endocrine system and your circulatory system. Those two organ systems work together to get your white blood cells to where they need to be in different parts of the body. You've got your digestive system and your circulatory system, lots of different organs that work together. So this is a kind of cool thing right here I found. This is a turtle heart. So in the video, and I'm not sure if you guys can hear the sound on this or not. I got a new fancy computer. So we're going to see afterward if you can actually hear the sound on this or not. But if not, there's really nothing exciting that he's saying. But this guy got a turtle, caught it, chopped its head off to kill it. Probably he was going to eat it. I don't even know. So anyway, he chops the head off this turtle, and he discovers that when he cracks open the body of the turtle, that the heart is beating. That's crazy. The heart from a turtle. Crazy. All right, so he says in there, if you didn't hear that, that he cut the head off the turtle half an hour before that, and then he cut the heart out of the body of the turtle 3 minutes before he made the video. So here is this massive cells in this organ. Cardiac cells are so cool, and that they function together by touch. So they know when to contract because they're touching each other, which is crazy. And they continue to beat together even when they're not getting a blood supply. Not so. All right, so this is our next unit here, the cell communication. We're going to spend over a week on cell communication because it is everything. If we can figure this out, if you all brainiacs can figure this out, we're going to have a whole bunch of things solved. We're going to come up with cures for a whole bunch of things through cellular communication. So how do cells communicate? They communicate by sending either electrical impulses or chemicals, usually in the form of some type of protein like a steroid, some kind of hormone, to another cell, and it tells that cell to do something. So in this diagram right here, you've got a synapse between one nerve cell and another, and they're passing from an electrical signal to a chemical signal and then on to the next cell. So cellular communication is our next big topic. We're not going to go into detail right now because we're going to go into detail for the next week or so. So what happens when you get injured? You get a cut right here. Boom. A lot of things have to happen almost immediately in order to respond to that injury. So first of all, we're going to produce epinephrine. Adrenaline is another name for that, by our adrenal glands, which are sitting on top of our kidneys. They produce that hormone, and that hormone says, oh my gosh, I'm going to do a lot of things in the body. So epinephrine in our cardiovascular system causes our heart to beat faster and our blood vessels to dilate. And it also kicks our immune system into gear and says, oh, you need to probably send some white blood cells to the site of this injury because we want to protect against infection. Once your body has been injured, let's say that you get this cut here and you go all the way down from your epidermis all the way down into your dermal layer, you're going to have things that happen, and about 3 hours later, your body's already starting to heal itself, which I think is phenomenal, by sending platelets, which are little clot builders, through your circulatory system right here, and they're going to start clotting actually within a couple of minutes, but within a couple of hours, it has already started to knit tissue back together, which is absolutely crazy, phenomenal. All right, so the official notes part of this has ended. So if you feel like signing off, you are done already on your first day of digital learning. That's totally fine. So for the rest of you who want to hang around, this guy right here, Chris Angel, is an illusionist. And I think he's out in Vegas right now. He's kind of cool. He's a Christian illusionist because he says, I'm not a magician. Magic is not something I want to dig into. And so he does illusions. So here Chris is healing some wounds in his body. I just thought this was kind of cool. And if you can't hear it, you've got corn here. Oh, it contains content, has been blocked on copyright grounds because it knows that I'm broadcasting it. Isn't that funny? So I could show it to you in class, but I can't show it to you on here. Well, there you go. All right, so that's it. Homeostasis, if you're interested, look up Chris Angel Mind Freak, and it is going to be, what's the title of it? Let me take a look here, the title of it. The title is Body Suspension. It's really crazy. He puts hooks in his back, and he's suspended from those hooks in his back, in his skin, by a helicopter, and then he flies over like a valley. It's really crazy for several minutes. So anyway, if you're interested in that, it's kind of cool. I'm not sure exactly how he does that, but he's a pretty cool guy, and he always prays before he does any of these illusions. So that's it for me. Ooh, 15 minutes. We are rocking and rolling. So those are the only notes that you need for tomorrow, and you are good to go. We'll dig into cell communication mañana. See ya.